The following is a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
From the birthplace of modern winemaking, Sonoma, California, welcome to The Winemakers. Local experts Sam Couturi, Bart Hansen, and Brian Casey, along with host John Myers, invite you to listen in as they discuss all facets of winemaking. So sit back, pour yourself a glass, and let's hear what the guys have to say this week.
A nice Glen Ellen pour, Dane Sellers pour.
That's no Glen Ellen pour. That's Napa Valley pour.
Oh, okay. Well, we are in
what
Glen
vintage?
Ellen. I'll just say that.
81.
Okay. Everybody talk right into their microphones. And
I know where Brian and I were in 1981.
I know where I was in 1981.
Yeah, you weren't even a figment.
Where were you, Bart?
Going to high school in Petaluma.
1981. Wow.
Running cross country.
I was 11. I was at La Tercera.
And I had just moved to Chicago with an ad agency. So I deep sixed the rest of my life and started to do that crap. So craziness.
1981. What kind of vintage was 1981? What kind of, do you remember the weather? You don't remember the weather? You were running cross country.
I don't. I mean,
81.
I want to say like
We could ask Phil. He'd have some
81.
fucking bullshit answer.
Right. I want to do. I will say that in 80, 81, one of those winters, we had snow on the ground in Petaluma.
Well, no,
And it was always windy in Petaluma.
81, 82. I think 82 was big flood year.
82 was a big flood year.
82
Yes,
was a
you're
big
right. It
flood
was,
year.
Sam.
God, how do you guys remember?
Well, I remember because
It was like the epic
Petaluma
Shelville
flooded.
floods. Yeah.
yeah.
Epic Shelville.
Oh, yeah. I remember Jennifer Grenfell lived in a court back on the other side of La Tercera Park, and the whole court flooded because the drains got backed up, and it was like a huge swimming pool. No, one of my sister's friends.
There you go.
This is one of these learning moments. So when when that happened, there was a trailer park that had flooded in north end of Petaluma at the Denham Flats out there, and my dad took the job to like clean up the park after, like clean the roads and stuff. And one of the things that I did is I crawled underneath all the trailer parks or trailer homes and pulled all the wet insulation out and drug it out to the door. Think about that as being a great job.
High school, man.
Like a blast.
That's what you do. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Winemakers. I'm John Myers with a full crew today.
Cold
And
open.
We are, yes, very cold. We are at Bart Hansen's Dane Cellar Tasting Tank.
We're getting
today,
tanked.
man. Absolutely. Welcome,
Tanked in
Sam
the tank.
Couturi.
Yeah.
Brian
T-shirts
Casey,
coming soon.
Bart
Thank you
Hansen,
very much.
And Alex Mitchell, welcome, man. Head guy, owner, cheap welder, you said, right?
Cheap.
All of you.
Cheap.
From MUST Machining and Fabrication in St. Helena. Welcome, my friend.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Wow, you brought some awesome wines too. Excellent.
Yeah, we unexpected, actually. We thought maybe you'd be bringing us some valves or...
Right.
Sorting bins.
I want like one of those punch downs that you make with some cool logo on the end of it.
Yeah.
I wonder what that would be.
Anything.
13-pointed lightning.
Steal your face.
13-point
thing?
lightning bolt.
Yeah.
Welcome, Alex.
Lightning bolt punch down.
How was the drive? Oh, you ran into a rolled over truck today, huh?
Yeah, coming in at the south end of Napa. There's a big old semi-truck rolled over, dirt on the road, big, long weight.
It's just hard for me to figure out how you dump at that corner, but
It happens.
all load dynamics, right?
As we said before, it's surprising it wasn't somebody trying to deal with their oversupply of some wine that's not selling in this treacherous wine market.
Wow.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, really?
I'm sure there's going to be some spills this summer, you know? Oh, we're a little long. Take that turn fast, Timmy.
You want to expand on that, Sam?
Nope.
Well, Bart, congratulations. You've been getting so much awesome press. This is just fantastic. And this is the first time I've been in the tank, so.
Yeah, it's funny. The woman, Robbie from the Sonoma Index Tribune says, "Do you realize how many articles have been published about you in our publications?" I said, "Hey, I just sent out the press release."
Well, it's cool. How big is this tank? How many gallon tank?
That's a great question, John.
Well, it's funny because I figured it out at 17,000 gallons.
Whoa.
Okay, then. The one paper said 10,000 and someone else said 12,000. So I don't know if someone checked my math. I should probably check my own math, to be quite honest. So yeah, it's really been fun, John. It's really been fun. Come visit, everybody. Come visit.
And what's the origin of the tank?
The origin of the tank is that across the street from us. Okay, I wasn't prepared to do this.
Oh, okay.
So Jenner Vallejo built the mill. And it was
Vallejo built the mill.
Vallejo built the mill.
Okay.
And Vallejo sold the mill to Chevet sometime in the mid to later 1800s.
Okay.
Chevet was a baker, and so he turned it into a grist mill. But shortly after that, he decided to build a winery and a distillery. And so that was the start of that.
The mill would just been what's now the restaurant.
Mill's what's now the restaurant. The creek right out here. I know exactly why they put a mill there, because that creek rocks.
Right. Flows all the time.
And the wheel still turns over there, doesn't it?
I think it's been disconnected. Current ownership.
It was definitely turned when I
Yeah.
threw
When Aventine was there, it was still turning.
Okay.
Not from water, but they were pumping water over it. But it was working. So why they stopped, I don't know. So that first winery was what is the leftovers in the parking lot just south of us here. It was a stone winery built
kind of
by
that parking area.
Yep, which was built by Chinese immigrants. Some people say Chinese slaves. I guess we could all agree that it was built by some Chinese craftsmen.
Whether or not they were
conscript,
whether or not they were paid for their
right
services, probably not.
Probably not. So that was the original winery. And again, I wasn't prepared with the dates, but Chevet sold the winery to Pagani, and Pagani operated it until the 50s. At some point, it was full of redwood tanks. Some point in the late 60s, early 70s, it was sold to the people that have now developed it into what it is, shops and stores and tasting rooms. And one of the tanks was disassembled and brought over here and put in here because it was the same owner. The owner lives on this side. So these buildings out here were the tractor barns and just storage for the wineries.
And so these were built in the same
era.
Same era.
Yeah. And so the interesting thing is the vineyards that were planted when it was sold from Chevet to Pagani, it was sold with 1,000 acres of vineyard, which seems maybe a little bit of a stretch, but it was a very, very large winery. And talking to from Magnolia, Jack.
Yeah.
Jack said he went down deep into the Chevet history because of, they call it the Fifth Hill? No.
Old Hill.
No, but the 1/6 or something. There's one block over there that
belonged to Chevet.
That belonged to Chevet.
Because Phil farmed forever, and Couturier Winery made what we always called Chevet Vineyard Zinfandel from, and then the Hamels owned it for a while, Armor Plate,
right?
So just south of B.R. Cone,
right? Which is now Laurel Glen.
Now Laurel Glen's, yeah, exactly, or one of the partners of Laurel Glen. So there's a lot of vineyards in that stretch of the valley from Bedrock and Barisha north to
was all owned by the same thing. So
they can make 1,000 acres.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I find that really fascinating. Need to do a little more studying on that. So at any rate, that's it. It was a bookstore. It was
It was moved to be used as a structure, not
correct.
as a tank.
No, correct. It was taken out of production.
Right.
They left the valve. The valve that's outside, I think is. See what you think.
We can get
I think it's like
a new one
60s.
from MUST.
It's a 60s era valve from Healdsburg Machine Shop.
Okay.
Yeah, that's about it.
Which is
them,
about the time
Alex?
that they moved it too.
Yeah.
Correct.
Well, you make everything possible.
Pretty wide variety of stuff.
Winemaking, right?
Yeah.
How much of your business is actually attached to winemaking versus et cetera, other?
Oh, 99%.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's what my customers are around. We dabble in some high-end home, like custom stuff for homes and stuff. Recently, I've made some wine cave doors for residents.
Ooh, where's that?
Yeah.
Up in the hills by St. Helena.
Did you keep a master key is really the question.
Yeah.
So I wanted to have Alex on because, I always talk about when I got into the business, what there was and there wasn't. And there wasn't a place to go and just buy equipment, right? There was Napa, what was the name of the place?
Napa Fermentation.
Napa Fermentation.
Been around for a while.
Yep. And there
the
was
Complete Welder.
Yep. And there wasn't, like if you needed something, you had to have it made. When I worked at Kenwood, we had an old 1960s ketchup labeler. And when, gears and when something went down, we had to go find a machinist to replicate what we had because there were no parts for it. And it's probably still that way. And that's a lot of what you guys do. But you also have a full service like shopping emporium of stainless steel toys. And it's so cool.
So dangerous.
Yeah.
So dangerous, right? But I wanted you to talk a little bit about like how the business has changed, and we'll get to that eventually. But I want to your history. We find out now you grew up in the Valley.
Oh yeah, I was born here.
And can you maybe start with your grandfather's label?
Sure.
Start with that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. Back in the late 70s, my grandfather and my father and some other investors built a winery called Alaterra. It's from what I'm told, it was a 49th bonded winery in Napa Valley.
Wow.
And it only lasted for a few years and broke up and did other things. But
Is there still a building standing where that was?
no, I don't even know where it was.
Yeah.
It may not have been really anywhere. It might have been just sort of a moving target.
Right.
I don't know. But there's still a few bottles left that have been hidden in my grandfather's basement since the 70s. So we have some, and they're just sitting there going bad. So thought I'd bring them out and see if they're any good.
Well, it's not bad.
No,
definitely
not at all.
not going bad.
Not
We
at
were
all.
all worried when Brian put the cork in. He was acting a little cavalier, like these sommeliers do. But a cork came out great. The wine is in great shape.
Yeah.
Mr. Sommelier, can you describe the wine?
Yeah, I mean, right away you get the honey notes on it, but what's surprising is it still has that green apple acidity going on in there. It's actually starting to open up a little bit.
Yeah.
And what year is this?
81.
And the grapes?
Gewürztraminer.
Oh, okay.
If you can't say Altair Gewürztraminer 3 times fast.
It's the old gun bun thing, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah, Gewürztraminer was my grandfather's love, and he grew that on a vineyard in Yountville. And then Gewürztraminer, when it fell out of popularity, and he slowly had to convert over to what was popular.
And that being?
Cabernet.
Okay.
A lot of Cabernet, yeah.
Because this particular bottle, when this was produced, they made 778 cases of this.
Whoa. Yeah. It's an ambitious 1981. I mean, it's a lot of Gewürztraminer.
Yeah, but Gewürztraminer was,
So- sold.
It was what was available at the time, right?
Right.
There wasn't much Chardonnay probably planted in that era. There was probably even less Sauvignon Blanc. There was probably a bit of Chenin Blanc.
Never heard of it.
Yeah.
Does Bart make Chenin?
Well, and what's interesting on this bottle is it says this bottle is number, and it says 5,522 of 9,340 bottles. So, and that 5522 is like a little stamp, a little blue stamp. So they must have done this on every single bottle.
Totally by hand.
Didn't even notice that. That's amazing.
crazy.
Totally by hand. Cool.
I mean, so the nice thing is it's from the middle of the run.
A hand stamp.
So no
That's
wonder
what
it's
they probably that's how it still exists.
Right.
They probably pulled it out of the middle of the run for
historical.
for historical reference and submission to the press and stuff like that.
Why does the middle of the run make a difference?
It probably doesn't really, but it is common practice at a lot of wineries. You know, when you're on the bottling line, you always take the first case or two that come off and put it aside, and then the last case or two that come off. Just, you know, things get
more oxidation.
Things get weirder at the ends. Many wineries pull 1 to 3 cases from the middle of the run that never go. So, and the other important part about this, John, is really it's about taxes, right? So those 2 cases at the beginning and 2 cases at the end don't go on the bottling report as what you produced that you have to pay taxes on, because it just gets disappeared to like the staff or whatever. And then you would take sometimes some out of the middle, again, doesn't go on the bottling report, that you would use for historical reference. It's the middle of the run. It's going to be, you know, it's like the prime cut. You think of, you know, the big tank. It's like right in the middle of the tank. It had the least amount of oxygen, most homogenized, supposedly, maybe.
I mean, every time you
and then you submit that for like the press.
Yeah.
That's really what it is you submit it to you know, you hold those bottles. Those are the bottles you would send to Parker in 1981, you know, 82.
I mean, it's when you're starting the line, there's usually, you know, a shutdown to adjust the cork or the label, or maybe the foils aren't going down right if you use foils. And then at the end, you're getting to the end, you know, maybe you suck a little air out of the tank, so you got to let the tank kind of replenish itself. And so those are all inconsistencies. And so that's why you pull the top and the bottom off.
Well, I'm glad they pulled this one. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It tastes like really good apple juice.
It's beautiful.
It's
Really good 43-year-old apple juice.
So
amazing.
Family still own the property
Yeah.
and still growing grapes?
Yep, still growing grapes.
Thought about starting your own label?
No, not really. I'm okay.
Levi Strauss, never mind for gold, you know? Just make things for these fools.
Have you always been a tinkerer and a maker of things?
Yeah, as long as I can remember. I've always liked doing stuff with my hands and figuring out how things work. For sure. Yeah.
Man, you've got a full service. I mean, your catalog is huge.
Yeah, the catalog's was pretty nice. My wife, that was my wife's undertaking. She decided we needed a real catalog, so she spent a year designing that and writing up descriptions and taking photos and photoshopping, and it was an insane amount of hours invested into that.
It takes it, but it looks great, you know?
Thank you.
So anything you need for running any kind of winery and bottling system.
Yeah, for the most part,
right?
We steer clear of building tanks and catwalks, but tools and hand tools and modifications and automation, all kinds of stuff. We like to try new things.
Well, and that's like such an interesting piece of this. You know, I was thinking here, I've been in how many ever wineries in my life, Bart probably more. None of them are the same. Mm-mm. Right? None of them are, you know, rare. Even like if you're in the warehouse, you know, out on A Street or whatever, might be the exact same building shape, but it's all set up differently. It's all about A, preference, and B, availability and space and the whole thing. So it's how much of what you do is, you know, this catalog, how much of it is custom and how much of it is there's actually things that plug and play. Like you can make 1,000 of some little item because every winery will use it, or you make it one time because it only fits this one 37-degree angle in this one cave, right? Yeah. There's you know, there's the kind of standard tools and doodads that all the wineries use in common. But when you start getting into like customization of or adding features to a tank, modifying, you know, adding pumps and stuff. You know, I'll have a phone conversation with somebody and they'll ask me, what do I need to do for my tank, or give me a quote and that kind of stuff. And it's like, I got to see your tank. I got to take some measurements. Like every tank is slightly different, if not radically different. Right. Even if they're supposedly the same model. And right. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and something that's crazy is that automated pump over tanks. Mm-hmm. Like we would have never thought of that we never would have done it because there were a few in existence and you just heard nightmares about them, right? And, about, you couldn't get them clean or, not being able to physically get in and touching everything. And old Healdsburg machine must pumps. I remember we used to clean them completely at the end of the harvest. And when you pull them apart, depending on how deep you went, you found stuff from like the Nixon administration. Oh, yeah. For sure, right? Yeah. And so now you guys are building completely self-contained pump over tanks. And they are literally just going in and cleaning them with a clean in place system. And so that's something that's come a long way. Is that something that you were aware of, or have you had people come to you and say, hey, I really want to do this and it doesn't work very good, help me get there?
Yeah, sure. There's lots of people who are kind of, have been doing it the same way for decades. And that's, part of their brand, making sure it can get consistency. But as the labor pool diminishes and, it's harder to get help, and just trying to, expand the wineries, they've come to me and say, what can you do with the tanks I have? This is our method now, and how can we make it better? So it's kind of fun challenge. You check it out. Everybody's different, setup, like you said. Right.
So how much of your stuff is that sort of design? I mean, and is that what you enjoy, that part of it?
Yeah, that's kind of, I like finding the solutions to problems or improving things that are currently, like my product line is, I've got quote unquote, standard items, but I'm constantly tinkering with them, trying to make them better, or if not better for the customer, better, easier, cheaper for us to manufacture, so we can keep the price down and, all these little things.
And you do all the installation too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of new systems?
Yeah, that's kind of our claim to fame is kind of one-stop shop. So, a lot of people will, order their parts from one company and then hire technicians to install from another company, where you can call us and we can do just kind of everything.
You can actually make the stuff that doesn't fit work, I'm sure, or replace it.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not sure how many exact parts you have in your catalog, but there are a hell of a lot of
thousands.
I mean,
it's a lot.
Bolts and washers and whatever. It's amazing.
Yeah, sort of a hardware store. As you were saying, like if you walk, a lot of the people from the wineries walk into our place, and a common comment is it's a candy store for winemakers. So.
Just something about a lot of shiny.
I was gonna say take a bunch of winemakers and show a bunch of shiny objects and like, whoa.
I remember there's a guy, Denny Morton, here in Sonoma. Shout out Denny. I doubt you're listening, but he was a welder, and we would always go, hey Denny, we've got this. We want to convert it to this, and Denny's like, it'll cost me more to convert it than just to build a brand new one. That was what he would always say. But, he always loved that challenge of making it better. But, sometimes you'd have to wait for months for Denny because there was only a few of them and everybody used them. To be able to have you guys, and I'm sure people still have to wait. And with the amount of businesses that you guys see, it's just vastly got to have improved all this.
Oh, yeah. No, there's a lot of truth to what Denny told you. A lot of times the older stuff, you got to tear it apart and reinvent it and then put it back together the way the customer wants. And sometimes that's a necessity. Sometimes it's not. Actually, with the Healdsburg MUST pumps you were talking about, in the last couple of years, we've completely overhauled and rebuilt 2 of those.
Okay, I got to know, who's still using those? Come on. Petroncelli, really?
Yeah. We rebuilt there.
That totally computes.
Yeah. From the pod?
Yeah, and
from the pod, there we go.
Yeah. And
Bonded Winery, what, 97?
They kept it real clean.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the best looking one I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It was really good.
And do people, are they still using those big Healdsburg machine MUST valves?
Oh, sure. Yeah, there's a lot of the bigger, older wineries have got those big 4 and 5 inch MUST valves for diverting the wine around to fill tanks and stuff.
Right.
And those are kind of a problem child for the wineries. They've got they're not terribly clean.
Yeah.
You can't get parts for them. They're all made out of bronze, which people are trying to stray away from for winemaking. which is
bronze is reactive, right?
it can be, yeah.
Can be, yeah.
So they got these wineries that they don't talk about it, but they've got them in their winery.
Right.
And so I created a stainless steel version for those, actually a drop-in replacement. The problem is like you can throw the thing away, but then what do? Right? You got to replace it with something, and nobody makes something that fits that spot. So then you got to buy a $20,000 clean in place sanitary ball valve, and then hire a crew of guys to modify your pipes so it fit. It just becomes that's why nobody does it, because it's wildly expensive. So Napa Wine Company, they needed a 4-way version of one, and they needed it real bad. So they
Bonded winery number 7, John. 7 Napa Wine Company?
Something like that, yeah.
Like a single digit bond.
Yeah, I was going to guess 4.
Might be 4. I think it's between 4 and 7.
Where are they now? What are they doing?
It's at the corner of Oakville Crossroad and Highway 29.
Yeah.
Mostly custom crush, I think.
A lot of
sort of one of the first like custom crush kind of places.
Yeah, and it was the place that all those status wineries kind of established themselves.
Yeah, the cult, like the birthplace of the Napa Cult Winery.
But you guys went and saw the gentleman just down south of there. Paradigm.
Right, Ren Harris, his wife's family.
His wife's family started that.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So.
I'm sure there's some old equipment in that building.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Some of they a few, I don't know, maybe it was 10 years ago now, they had all their they got these giant rectangular concrete tanks that were like the walls of the building were the tank.
Right.
And they had them all lined with stainless finally.
Yeah.
But it was fun to go check that out. All the old stuff that you have to work around or update in ways that you can.
So I was going to actually ask you this question. What is the sort of like wildest winery project that you've had to do, whether complicated or just like the scene or decadent. The request, decadent. Give us some of your like craziest custom installs that you've had.
Scariest.
Hanging upside down in a gravity fed artificial heart.
Oh, that's a toughie. Let's see. Well, last year we installed some 4-inch MUST lines to run around Brassfield Winery up in Lake County.
Yeah.
The place is, and that's a Napa Valley winery in Lake County. The place is fantastic, but like it's you're trying to install MUST lines. You should have installed this before the tanks go in. So we're like you crawling around on top of tanks and up on sky lifts and like hanging off things with one arm and stuff. Luckily I've got skilled guys who could do that, not without some complaining, but they got it done.
Cue the Mission Impossible theme song.
Dun, 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 dun,
I know, because how did you go to school to be a machinist or how did you get started in doing it?
Sure, yeah. I went down to Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo, got a degree, bachelor's and master's in industrial technology, sort of engineering / business mixed together. Mm-hmm. So I don't have all the math of an engineer, but I can talk to technical and talk to business. I've all the jobs I've had have involved mechanics and building stuff, and I just ended up after college working for a company down in San Luis Obispo where I started up a manufacturing department for them, hired guys, bought tools. We made self-deploying satellite dishes for high-end RVs and disaster recovery vehicles. I worked way too many hours for the salary I was getting, but it was all fun and games. And then moved back home up to Napa to marry my wife, and got a job at York Machine Works with John York. And I was hired as his thank you. I was hired as his welder because his welder had quit, and or I guess he didn't quit. He didn't show up for work one day and he never phoned in.
Never came back.
Yeah,
disappeared.
But
Vegas.
Yeah.
So of that era, there was York Machine and Burgstahler, right? They were at the same time?
No, well, okay. So York Machine Works, John York started York Machine Works in 1973.
Okay.
And then Burgstahler Machine Works actually started in, I think it was 1998,
Open that
1997, something like that.
Rombauer before you go?
So
In the Rosenblum before you go?
So Sam, you want to keep the Somme here.
So
Open the bottles.
A friend of the pod, Chris Rush, I ran into him recently and we were talking about this.
Talk about a winery with old shit to work on.
Right.
Like
Chris works
Mayacamas.
at Mayacamas.
Oh yeah. Sure.
And covets those old tanks. And
Like
he
it's more like beeswax than stainless steel. Keeping that place together.
and he was asking about is there a tie-in? Is there a Mondavi tie-in that goes from barrel builders to maybe York? Do you know anything about that?
I don't know anything about that.
I mean, I think what he was saying is that some of these companies came out of like the research and development department of Mondavi, or whatever that was.
Not
A couple of guys hanging out, playing around.
Right.
Yeah.
R&D
I know Barrel Builders and York Machine Works went in together and built a barrel washer stand together.
Okay.
One of the kind of the barrel spins,
Yeah,
spin
right.
around.
The barrel bidet, we called it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've rebuilt a bunch of those, and they made a real nice like aluminum one that kind of fixed some of the problems of the European one. But that's the only tie-in I've heard between those two. I don't know about Mondavi other than just people floating around from winery to winery.
Yeah, Chris, you'll have to do a little more research.
So, Alex, the concept of a machine shop is a guy with a lathe and a drill press and making parts out of just standard metal. But that's the analog way. How has it changed, and how much of the digital and CAD CAM do you guys use now?
Sure.
Is everything completely computerized and generated?
Not everything. There's still a place for manual machines. We do a lot of CNC, computer controlled stuff. But when I started York Machine Works, John York was it's all manual, one-off stuff, and I still have most of the equipment that he had. In fact, the oldest machine that I have is a key seater built in the late 1800s. It was all line-driven stuff, and it's been converted to run on electricity.
That's wild.
Yeah.
God.
But yeah, it's like, when I started, it was John taught me the ways, how to machine stuff manually, and what to look for and what the feel and the sound should be. As a new guy, I was running a lathe, and from across the shop, John's in the office. You can hear him yelling, "You're going too fast!" Like you can just tell. You just know from the sound and the feel of the place. And
it's a real talent.
Yeah, and it's the nuance, and I think, one of my old bosses used to hate when we played music too loud because he said you couldn't hear, the equipment. You couldn't, and he was right. Whether it was the bottling line, because the bottling line would start to make a weird noise when it was starting to get out of whack, and it needed to be readjusted. And the same thing on a press. Guys that operate presses, they know exactly what sounds they're looking for.
Totally.
And so there's a lot that goes to that. I remember there was a guy who was a winemaker up at Côte d'Ivoire, and he was on an interview one time, and he says, I just can sit at my desk and I can check every single tank and see what the temperature is, and I can watch it on a video, the fruit being crushed. And I was like, God, it's such a loss. Like, you can't do that. I was taught you have to... You have to walk up to a tank and you have to fill the jacket and you have to fill the tank, and then that it's cooling, right? You can't rely on an electronic switch that says it opened. Doesn't mean it opened. And think about overnight what could happen. That fermentation go through the roof and lose the wine. Yep. So, I agree with John York.
Yeah, for sure. Right? For sure, yeah. So,
and a lot of that stuff you guys make, it's very, very small tolerances, right? So being off a little bit means throwing it into the recycle.
Oh yeah.
And that gets expensive.
Yeah. Try to avoid that. Yeah. But yeah, so then that's how I started. And then when I bought York Machine Works in 2010, And when John he wanted to retire, he hired me hoping I would want to buy it. He saw his retirement
That's a good thing.
5 years in the future.
That's the way you do it, man.
Yeah. So I grew up, his youngest daughter and I were in the same grade. So I knew him.
Where'd you go to high school?
St. Helena High. Yeah. And actually, I was born.
Idyllic upbringing, St. Helena, California.
Yeah, growing up, you feel like like it's the worst.
Stuck in idyllic.
There's nothing to do here.
Traffic.
Yeah, you got to move away to realize what you had.
100%.
Yeah, for sure. But
Well, actually, did you go to Cal Poly Cal Poly, you have to declare your major to get in, right? So did you go to do what you did, or were you like on a wine track? You grew up in St. Helena, your family had vineyard,
No.
dad and grandpa winery. Were you thinking wine at any point in your, or is it like eventually you kind of made your way back to the wine world?
yeah, you grow up and it's like, oh, I'm never going to do what my dad does, kind of a thing, Again, like I was all mechanical, and I thought I was going to become a mechanical engineer. That's what I knew was the high end of mechanic stuff.
Right.
So I thought I was going to go to Santa Barbara and do mechanical engineer. I started off doing junior college. So I went to Santa Rosa Junior College for a year. And then I went down to Cuesta Community College down in San Luis Obispo. And from then, one of my roommates was an industrial technology major, and I was just like listening to about his classes and what he's learning, and I was like, oh my god, that's much more what I'm looking for, because everybody in my family are all business owners. So that's just what you did. You grow up and you develop a business, and that's what you do. So I needed business background, so industrial technology had that in it. It worked out.
I applaud you for knowing that you needed background in business.
The concept.
The concept, yeah. Like how to talk, but when you said how to talk on the business side and how to talk on the manufacturing side, very important.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
How much of your work is custom these days? I mean, you have a lot of brand names that you sell. Alpha Laval, having done a lot of agricultural advertising in my past, those guys are everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
On every farm in America, and Graco and guys like that. So what do you make custom-wise, and what do you sell product-wise?
We've got a number of product lines that we resell. A lot of it we will customize for a specific need. But I would say over half of what we do is all really custom stuff. We've got kind of our standard product lines that we build in-house, and then we've got stuff that like we really are harebrained ideas from cellar workers and winemakers, that you get napkin sketches. I got this idea, I want to do this, and that's what kind of gets me excited. You get to kind of start from the scratch.
Translate past the taco grease on the napkin from lunchtime. What if we had it like this, and then went left at the top and then over the round?
They say more business plans are written on napkins than anywhere else.
At least they got written. Again,
Yeah.
Where's your new business plan? Right here.
Yeah, exactly.
Cocktail napkins. We had several drinks last night and figured it all out.
So we opened the 93 Rosenblum Holbrook Mitchell trio.
Did you
Sounds
catch
like a
that
folk
when he
singing
said
group.
when Rosenblum was in Napa?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to be quite honest, I just always assumed it existed down there.
Yeah, totally.
Is this Rosenblum that Jeff Cohn used to work
totally.
for?
Yeah. Kent Rosenblum.
All right.
But I'd never seen this label before.
Yeah, I was going to say.
First of all, and also it took me till 37 seconds ago, whereas we're talking to Alex Mitchell. There must be some Holbrook Mitchell. What's the Holbrook Mitchell trio story? Mr. Mitchell. Yeah. Oh wait, Alex Mitchell. Yeah. Mitchell Holbrook. I got it. Ding ding ding. All right.
Yeah, that's why I brought it. It's this is the other wine that my grandfather didn't make the wine. Rosenblum did, obviously, but all the grapes in this bottle came from my grandfather's ranch in Yountville.
So your grandfather was Holbrook Mitchell?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
All right.
And it's 75% cab. And then,
It says on the back?
yeah, 75% cab, 6% Merlot. Nope, sorry, 6% Cabernet Franc, 19% Merlot.
Bordeaux blend.
And so, explain to us where Holbrook Mitchell
So not only is it
says
a
Hillside
Rosenblum
Ranch.
from Napa Valley, there's no Zinfandel or Petit Syrah or any of those other things that you sort of like
Right.
associate Rosenblum a few years later, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So the ranch is at the very end of Hoffman Lane in Yountville. So the actual end, you keep driving right in there, and I think it's something like 39 acres or something like that.
And do you know where Rosenblum was when it was in Napa?
It was on Hoffman Lane.
It was also on
As
Hoffman
soon as you
Lane.
get on Hoffman Lane, it's what is now Joel Gott.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. You get past Napa and you start to go north, and it changes. It's back to what it once was. Yountville and although, you know, all the new restaurants and things are going in, hotels, etc. But, you know, you guys up there in St. Helena, that's just an idyllic little spot, man.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I like it. It's
Beautiful
nice.
little town.
Yeah. There's been a lot of the city of St. Helena has historically tried to keep it from changing very much. So it's been kind of
Good luck. Keep it down in
Yeah.
Napa, huh?
For better or for worse, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Sonoma does the same thing.
For better or for worse.
You know, I mean, they want that old feel. And if you want apartment buildings, go right up the road to Petaluma.
Banana bread.
Yeah, you know, it's really interesting. Last week's show, when you were talking about what you like about Cabernet, like that people have gotten away from, they've been trying to hide. This is totally that. And of course, that's the era, right? I mean, 93.
83
before
or
things,
93?
Yeah. 93.
93.
Right before things started to go kind of over the top.
Right. Things
And
started-
93 was a great vintage. 93 was like
Yeah.
one of those all timers.
Yeah. Yeah. It's delicious.
I don't know how you guys remember each vintage. Like, you know, I'm not.
Well, you remember the
listen to
good
you guys
ones or the
talk.
bad ones, right?
Right.
Remember the good ones or the bad ones.
And if you're drinking one of the good ones, then it's always really good. Yeah. And if the wine's not showing very well, then you go,
Oh, must have been a
that
bad
was
bottle.
tough vintage.
yeah. Right.
Gotcha.
You know, they used to have like little wallet cards of French vintages that you could take it on.
Oh yeah, the Wine
Oh, look,
Spectator.
yeah. Cheat sheet.
It would come in the collector's issue. You know, the vintage card.
The vintage card. Which ones were good, which ones were bad?
We've got a Fransac from so-and-so, yeah. Of course, fabulous.
I mean, personally, I think the Gewürztraminer is fresher
Yeah,
at 12 years older.
yeah, totally.
This is on the
well, it's a
tail
different
end.
animal, too.
Oh yeah, totally different animal.
Yeah. Well, that's why I brought the Magnum, because I wasn't sure if this was gonna
Right, this
be
is gonna-
okay.
It's-
it is very. You could see that it's missing the year.
Right.
That label, they ran that label for a number of years,
Okay.
so it's like identical except for the year. So I don't know what year it is. It might be 93. It might be 92.
Well, you ought
it
to
might be
open
94.
that with a company party because
Yeah.
it's probably bigger bottle, probably holding on better. Than
Yeah, it might be.
That was the idea.
Because there's still like sort of some mid palate freshness and,
Yeah.
and fruit here.
and a nice like ode to Cabernet, like a little bit of a herbal note. That's really nice.
Totally. No, I'm telling you, it's like my first thought was banana. Maybe it's because Alice
Yeah.
made one. She baked for herself on Mother's Day. Made a banana bread yesterday for a little brunch we had.
That's
and so it's definitely like in the recency bias, but it has that sort of like there's a little tropical, there's a little like spiced, a little herbal.
Yeah.
I'm coming to your house.
Baking
Joan makes sugar-free banana breads.
Well, this one was not gluten free, so I only smelled it. I didn't actually taste it. Yeah.
Nice.
So how do you get involved in setting up any new branches of winery, any new sections? I mean, how often do people replace equipment these days?
Only when it breaks.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, we sell durable goods. So the idea is if you sell you something, you should have it for decades, not months.
Do you have amphora holders?
You have any of those shards left?
Protecting you, Bart.
I do have some. I can drop some off at the shop next time I'm up there.
It's okay.
We're gonna.
He's a dedicated listener.
Yeah.
Like, he's like,
We're gonna use it to line my little pond out here.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah. No, it's been
Have
fun.
you ever heard the story?
I have heard. Yeah, I heard on a couple of different podcasts.
Yeah.
You guys have
We-
mentioned it.
I think we're not going to talk about it.
It's a good story.
Brian sent me pictures from wall to wall of the way you're supposed to hold a forest. I'm like, I got all that.
at force majeure.
We're on a very small budget compared to force majeure.
Yeah, I think most budgets are pretty small compared to force majeure.
But
Next week's episode or last week's episode with Todd Alexander, great winemaker.
You are protecting it this year, I'm sure.
No, it's the one that I have still is standing there, just kind of near the wall, kind of protected.
Right, because now to do it the right way, you'd have to take it away from the way that's the wrong way, and you have this time in between from like that's the danger zone. If it's fine right now, don't touch it.
No.
I mean,
fix it till it's broken kind of situation.
That's the whole thing with all those devices is that you have to at some point clean it and move it, and you have to be able to turn it over. And I don't know what you've built for people, but it seems to me at some point you have to release this highly breakable thing from what's protecting it. And
you gotta like come up with some sort of fitting that goes on the forklift to wrap it so you can like take it and dump it. But without putting too much pressure, because if you put too much pressure on it, it would just implode, right?
Yeah.
We made a stand once for an M4 or for a clay vessel of some kind. I don't actually know what it was, but the
it's kind of like frisbee.
Part of the requirement was it had to sit on a soft bed of like this cushion. So we had to find like this kind of squishy, thick rubber kind of, but still sort of washable, sanitary material. Kind of a trick, and to reduce the chance of fracture. So this is a kind of another interesting one that we did. It was different.
The M4 challenge.
Yeah.
The M4 challenge.
Yeah.
Well,
Has there been a I can't do it, or it's just not going to work, or that have you had to tell someone that's a bad idea?
Yeah, those are tough conversations because a lot of times they have already sold themselves in their head that it's going to work.
Right.
And no matter which way I turn around in my head, I can't figure out how to make it work. And I'll try real hard to figure out how to make something work, because sometimes you come up with something and it's like, I'm always looking for like the elegant solution, right? Try not to get it complicated. Just keep it as simple as possible. And but on occasion there are things where somebody's just, maybe I'm missing something, but I try to look at it from all different directions, but it's like what they're asking can't live in reality.
Right.
Or like the way you machine something, you can't reach that. That's you can't,
right.
It's physically impossible.
But you're the engineer that they're hiring, so I'm sure that they do listen to you.
For the most part. Yeah, they do. I've never, been stuck in a yelling competition with anybody about something, but normally it's just I convince them that it's impossible or wildly expensive to do, because it's going to take so many different machine setups and man hours that we just come up with a different solution.
That's really the way you dissuade people. Yeah. You don't tell them that you can't. You can just tell them how expensive it would be if you did.
Well, yeah.
Like, maybe we can find a different solution.
My friend Dale used to build cave doors, and there was someone came to him after he had retired and said, I needed these cave doors built just like you did at that place. And he didn't want to do it. And so he didn't want to say no. So he threw out this huge number. And they said, yes. Sounds good.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. Should I
it's a backfire.
Well, I'm sure that probably half your business is integrating new product and new design into old.
Yes.
Which has got to be the hardest. And I assume then you do whole new installations also.
Yeah. We, like you said, a lot of it's people have tanks. Tanks don't typically go bad. Hopefully, but so we're doing a lot of installation of new equipment, automation, pump overs, pneumatics. punch downs and things onto old equipment. And then we, every year we have a handful of customers that are brand new tanks or even just a brand new winery, big shopping list. This is what we need. We need all new stuff for the brand new facility. And
that must be the nice order.
Those are nice. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's a very good one. But yeah. So
what is your feeling about the wine business right now? I mean, we've been talking about this with people and, are you getting orders for new stuff, like people expanding? Are people pulling back? I mean, what are you seeing? What's your magic 8 ball?
I'm seeing my business is this year has been a slower start than normal years. I think people are reluctant to kind of jump on an expansion project. There are definitely some out there. We're outfitting several brand new wineries. In fact, actually, one of them for Todd Alexander,
up in Walla Walla.
Yeah, for Walla Walla Land Company.
Yeah.
Are you actually going to interview him?
We did interview him when Brian and I went up to Hospice to Rhone.
Gotcha.
So we did the 3 shows, and that was the 3rd one that we haven't released yet. So I don't know exactly when it drops. It'll probably drop by the time this conversation goes live.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. But yeah,
great guy, really great guy.
Yeah, I've enjoyed all my interactions with him. Yeah. For when he worked for the Walls, did a automatic pump over installation from up there. But yeah, no, so far real good.
Yeah.
Anyway, the new installations, yes, but I don't know whether it's just because it's a election year, or I think interest rates probably have a giant portion of that, of what's going on. But things have definitely, people are reluctant to do some bigger projects,
right?
On the scale that they have been in the past.
Right.
There's always going to be new projects coming up, but yeah. No.
Well, and shit always breaks.
Yeah, well, there you go.
No matter what, broken stuff is inelastic.
We
does
do
not care
repairs.
about interest rates or.
Well, especially with the cellar workers, you can't make something cellar proof.
And I'm sure that you don't care whether it's an organic or a regular or what kind of wine they're making, or whether they're held by Constellation or they make 500 cases. Is it easier to work with the privately held people than it is big corporate giants?
Yes and no. I think mainly yes. It's nice. The bigger ones are nice because they want to standardize everything. So when they come up with a game plan, you kind of come up with one solution, and then they put it over like a whole facility or you're one cellar at a time or something like that, which is it streamlines everything, makes everything go faster, easier to do. But the smaller facilities are nicer. They're easier to talk to, and you kind of change the plan as needed, and just more flexibility with what they want to accomplish and hearing what I have to offer, rather than a larger winery has their own engineering department telling me what they need.
Right.
Regardless whether I tell them it's the best way to go or not.
Do they spec a specific brand when they give you designs, or are you able to put whatever you think is work best?
No, I've almost never been told exactly what brand to use, other than if the winery installed a certain brand pump or controllers or something in the past, we want to stick with something consistent so that everybody knows how to operate it. That'd be the only time that we would specify a specific brand. For the most part, different. We use one brand for one kind of a thing, like our flexible impeller pumps or Jabsco, or air pumps or Graco, the stuff like that. Yeah. But no one's ever said, "Oh, I can't work with you because you use XYZ brand."
What's the newest? What's the coolest things coming out? What's in the future?
How about those sight glass
Oh, the sight glass lights.
The sight glass lights.
Yeah.
Is that the one that got stolen at Unified, or like somebody thought was a freebie at Unified?
Yeah, you heard about that?
I follow, wrapped attention on Instagram for a few days. Did it ever make it back?
No, there was 5 of them.
5 of them.
5 of them walked off.
Yeah,
And what are these?
These are like flashlights dedicated just for a sight glass. So, if you're in a wine cellar, it's dark, and you get out your pocket flashlight and put it behind a sight glass to, watch the fluid go by. You got that flashlight, you've got to use your hands and hold it. And as sort of a fun project, we created one that just sort of clips onto a sight glass. So it's hands-free, and it can just sit there glowing. So you can be, across the other side of the tank, manning a pump speed or something while you're staring at it. It was kind of a fun project that we could do. So we wanted to try it out, and we finally kind of finished it.
And they tend to walk off.
Oh, yeah, well, we did our first run of them. We did like 10 of them, and right before Unified this last year. So we brought them to Unified and to display. We had this little display, and we had sight glasses full of wine and the lights there and stuff, and a pile of them, showing it off. Like, you do custom, you put your name on it. We can laser engrave your name on them and stuff. It was kind of fun to look. And then, we're there, and after lunch, we were looking around. All of a sudden, you're like, "Hey, what'd you guys do with the rest of the sight glasses?" like 5 of them had just vanished.
And the part of, I think I talked to you about this at the time. It was like, I remember the first year we took our entire crew, right? And the first thing they did, they walked in, they got a bag that they're handing out, and they start picking up pens, right?
Sure.
And then, someone's got a T-shirt, or someone's got a flashlight, and
Swag.
and it's swag.
Swag, yeah.
And then it was to the point where, like, on the second day, it's like every winery brought their entire crews. And I think those guys just figure, if it's there, grab 2 pieces of candy and that metal thing, and we'll figure out what it's for later, right?
No, I mean, that's probably what happened. It was like an awfully nice piece of swag.
Absolutely. It wasn't like a bottle pop opener.
Yeah. No, and
something.
then the worst part is, we had, when we designed them, you can't design them to fit everybody's sight glass, because everybody makes different sight glasses. So we made them to fit our sight glasses, because that's what we have, right? So they only work on our sight glasses. So guaranteed those people do not have our sight glasses. So they're completely useless to the guys. Just a paperweight.
I was going to say, they never even made it to the cellar. They're sitting in somebody's garage, like, what the hell am I doing with this thing?
Exactly.
Where the hell did I steal this?
Okay.
Yeah.
It's typical trade show behavior, though.
Yeah.
Totally.
Right.
Especially after lunch, or, you had a couple pops at lunch, and all of a sudden it's a little easier
C'est
to
la vie.
grab stuff off of tables.
Yeah.
So nothing new, ultra dramatic coming in the parts department.
You haven't reinvented the mousetrap.
No, just a lot of little stuff. We're just improving things here and there. Like, we just put out a new mini punch down for amphoras or open barrels and stuff.
Yep.
So we had last year and the year before, we had just kind of a lot of people coming in wanting to buy a small punch down, which we didn't have. And actually, a couple of them swear they bought them from us before, but they were, the little mini guys with this.
Let them think that.
With a foot that screws onto it, and some of the guys, the sales guys that work for me, they've worked in wineries for decades, and they know, they're like, oh yeah, we've used those before. They're annoying because the foot always falls off. Yeah. It's like, oh well, let's make one that doesn't do that.
And stuff grows underneath the foot.
Yeah. So we just kind of took the idea and ran with it.
That's good. Yeah. Did you ever work a harvest?
I have not. My wife worked, did a harvest in the lab at Silverado Vineyards.
Okay.
And then growing up, if I wanted, extra money, I would work for my father, who's a vineyard manager. Yeah. You go, I didn't do a lot. I mean, I don't want to make it sound like I worked a lot for him, but I'd go tie vines and disc and stuff like that.
Tied vines.
That's more than what Sam did.
I never tied a vine.
I don't recommend it.
Well, Bart, you just brought up.
Well, that's a job that Phil wouldn't let me do.
Right.
Let's be really honest. Wanted a little higher degree of accuracy.
Well, I mean, I always laugh at the fact that you have to work up to be a pruner.
Like at least 5 years.
Yeah. for good reason too.
Totally.
Because you can totally ruin a vine.
Right. Ruin a vintage.
Yeah, that's bad.
How do you ruin a vine pruning it incorrectly?
You cut off too many positions. It would be the easiest way. So basically, you would set it back
A year
or
yeah,
more
Yeah.
by cutting it back too far or cutting off the wrong
And taking
part.
the wrong position by
Right. That's
making it grow into
probably
each
even
other.
worse. Yeah, actually, would be like crossing over things that shouldn't get crossed over and stuff like that.
Okay. Just,
Oh, there's plenty of ways, John.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I've been pruning all weekend, so.
Well, and it's also the impossible quest of creating uniformity out of a bunch of grapevines that, even if you drive by, they all look the same. Every single one of them is different. Right. So to have that, the sort of creative, critical thinking to create, to make this vine look enough like the next one that they'll both ripen in the same way and have fruit at the same level and stuff like that.
Well, these things are not manufactured, Sam.
No, they are not. They could use a little, MUST fabrication accuracy, low tolerance level.
Well, in part, you brought up a key point, keeping things clean.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never scrubbed out a tank. I haven't done the lines. I haven't, there's just so much
Tanks
going
are
on.
easy because there's all usually, uniform surfaces and wider. It's things like pumps and pump over devices and, and you have someone clean it. And if they don't really pay attention to detail, stuff gets in there and stuff goes bad quickly. Yeah. So it's something that has to be done.
Well, yeah. I mean, I used to do Budweiser advertising, and one of the big things was distributors, right? Training distributors how to clean lines properly in the bar so your beer tastes like beer instead of... Man, you ever get orange juice in a bar, like ordering a screwdriver or something like that? It's like, holy cow, what'd they put this through? Man,
Vodka.
Oh, well, no, the juice just gets horrible.
Yeah.
When orange juice starts to ferment, you have a problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
That and everything else. I mean, they run
Unless you're in
through the
prison.
same lines. Sam, what? When you're in prison?
So you make your jail cell hooch out of like fermented oranges and stuff. Yeah. I've heard, John.
You haven't done it?
Didn't do any time, John.
No.
Didn't do any time.
But he did go to school in Reno.
I did go to school.
Did the
in Reno.
crime, but not the
I
time.
did visit
baby.
Park Boulevard a time or two, but I never did any time.
Yeah, cool.
No, we get lots of stuff coming in for annual services, pumps and things, and some stuff. It's broken stuff that comes in that needs to be fixed. And as we tear stuff apart, it's like, has this ever been cleaned? Got like an internal list of wines I don't want to try.
Can you show that to the owners and say,
Oh yeah, it's an opportunity actually to educate people. It's showing them a better way. Yeah, so it's try to use it as an opportunity.
No human pathogens grow in wine, but boy, bacteria, spoilage things certainly can. So, yeah, cleanliness is godliness is what I was always told in my early days.
well, you got to keep it clean, man. So, and I'm sure you just make it easier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We sell a lot of cleaning products. We used to actually not sell any like scrub brushes and stuff like that. And then with enough years of people asking if we sell them, we said, oh, maybe we should just sell them. And they've been very popular.
Is organic harder to take care of in any way, shape, or form than?
Not in the winery, not really.
Okay.
You're using all the same.
I mean,
you're using all the same products to clean things. It's just a matter of what you're putting into the wine or not putting into the wine. So,
I mean, the way you clean things has changed, and there was a time where you used a lot of chlorinated or caustics, and then it was very important to sanitize them or to balance them with citric acid, and but they've gotten away from those really harsh chemicals. So more time is put into cleaning them. I mean, peracetic acid certainly has come a long way, and ozone has helped a lot. But there was also a time period where I think people, they just wanted to get away from using the caustics and the chlorines, and didn't really know how to use the other products. But it's come a long ways, without a doubt.
Oh, does equipment?
And just one more thing.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between clean and sanitized, right? Like you can't sanitize something if it's not clean, right? So there's residual left on things, and that has to be clean to make it sanitized or sterile. And that's something that I think can be lost in the training of cellar guys. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you certainly see that, right? You know,
oh yeah,
pull something out, and maybe there's not physically grapes in there, but there's definitely residual that
7 years of tartaric acid buildup.
Yeah.
And stuff you can't readily see, I'm sure.
There's biofilms.
Yeah.
That just are impossible to get off with a rinse.
Well, I'm sure modern design is easier to clean. You know, I'm sure that they take that into consideration.
It's much more consideration in the design. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned ozone. Like ozone's great. Ozone and has now caused other for me, like picking out the correct seals that ozone isn't going to just destroy.
Right.
So it's a shift in design. If you gotta, so now it's a question I need to ask, like, what are you going to be washing this device with? You know, it's to find out whether it's actually a good fit or not.
Right. Yeah.
You must become quite a partner with people. Not just a resource, not transactional. It's a real partnership.
Yeah, I mean, we try. It's their livelihood, their winery. Just try to help whenever we can. I mean, that's actually the catalog you mentioned is. We tried to build it not just a list of things that you can buy from us, but there's pages and pages of how and why you use some of this stuff to try to help. You know, a lot of our customers have really appreciated it, and that they can look. I can. I've learned stuff from your catalog, or I can hand this to my cellar worker to explain why we do things or how we do things. And it's sort of a reference guide as well.
I remember Burgstahler never had a catalog.
No, zero advertising.
Anything. Then they got to a point where they would send you a spreadsheet that just had some stuff on it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, your catalog has gone a long ways to improve that. So yeah, good on you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Well,
are you buying anything new this year?
Me?
Yeah.
I don't buy anything. I use everybody else's stuff.
I don't know. I want a custom steely punch. Then I'd have to do punch downs. Never mind.
What do you need, sir?
I was gonna say get a custom Grateful Dead, steal your face punch down or something.
Yeah.
But then I'd have to do punch downs. To be at the winery in time to do the punch downs, it's not gonna happen.
Right. We had at Benziger, Mike had a copper or brass punch down device made with the biodynamic emblems on it.
Right.
Water, air, earth, and fire.
Right.
And it was really fun to use, but
a pain in the ass to clean.
But the wines were never stinky.
No. Right. Take care of all your sulfates. Winery equipment story. Not necessarily must punch down, mechanical, more electrical. The electric-magnetic storm that hit Friday.
Oh yeah,
crazy.
That was wild.
So the Aurora Borealis thing happened at night, obviously, right? But the storm hit in the middle of the afternoon, which I read about when I got off the mountain. We were canning on Friday afternoon up at Repris, which has an electrical system that was installed in 1979, 1980. And
so in no way is it shielded.
Now that we blew a fuse. So a little pump, not even that big of a pump, small pump on a 480 circuit, blew a fuse after being operated fine for all day long. This is like the middle of the afternoon. And now this is a fuse they have to go to salvage stores and stuff to find a new one. And then I got off, and then I realized that was when the storm hit planet Earth.
A lot of stuff went off,
And
especially
and I texted the
GPS
winemaker. I texted and I'm like, could this have been why that fuse blew? And he's like, it's as good a reason as any. There was no other reason for that fuse to blow. It was working fine. We didn't add anything. There was nobody went and turned the dishwasher on or something. It was just
the hair dryer and the dishwasher.
The hair dryer, the dishwasher, and the blender goes on. All of a sudden, it's the light switch in the living room smoking. So,
Yeah.
the winery, electromagnetic storm. And then we had to scramble to finish the can line, plug into some other, there was 3 circuits, but, winery equipment, that's a beautiful winery with all the equipment in the world, lots of new stuff, but there's still a lot of stuff that they're using every day. All, that crush pad that we're in, that's where 2 presses and a destemmer and a sorting table are operating along with a dozen tanks during the peak of harvest.
Yeah.
A little tiny pump blows it out.
Right.
And now they're, it'll be down a week while they scour eBay to find replacement fuses for it.
God, going to eBay for parts, man. I don't think so.
And it has to make them rethink what could happen.
Well, and
because you can't time a solar storm, right?
That was kind of he's as much as it a pain in the ass that my can line went up there and got in the way and played music too loud for the guests and the whole thing, and used their resources for the day. They were kind of happy that it happened to me instead of, in the peak day of, 25 tons coming off the mountain and the whole thing. So
you playing music too loud?
It wasn't even, it wasn't even me. It was the can van. I'm going to blame it on the beer people. But we're usually further away from where the guests are. But we went into the tank room just because we usually in pop-up tents and it's kind of a pain in the butt. So this year my request was to go into the tank room for the canning, which put us on this circuit that we blew and also put us right outside where the guests were showing up. And so, I like to ruffle feathers wherever I go, apparently.
Why not? So, Alex, what else is going on up in St. Helena? Anything good these days?
Oh, yeah.
New bakeries or butcheries or anything?
My current favorite is the new taco joint, Ray Ray's Tacos.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's the kind of insider in Napa Valley information that we need.
It is so good.
Forget the Michelin star.
And where is Ray Ray's?
It's right on Main Street.
Okay.
They were going to open up a long time ago, and then they ended up getting problems with the building. They had to earthquake retrofit and stuff like that. So it didn't open up on time, but now it's finally open and it is delicious.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Where were you during the Napa quake?
I owned York Machine Works, and we were.
You survive all that?
Yeah, we were okay, but we scrambling to help the wineries. We made a whole bunch of barrel hooks for unstacking the pyramid of barrels that would, especially like a Trefethen and just crazy. So yeah, we're just making those as fast as we could so people could actually lift up their full barrels out of a pile.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
So where you live, there's Yountville and Calistoga and St. Helena. What else am I missing up there in that little cluster?
That's the main areas, and then I live just outside of. I'm still technically unincorporated St. Helena in the community of Deer Park. It's just between Angwin and St. Helena, and this is kind of where the glass fire hit. Yeah, our entire street got completely
really
out. Yeah. So it was,
you guys too? I mean,
oh yeah, me, my wife's parents' home, and everything just completely leveled. Yeah, it's been a rough few years. Yeah. But we're finally back in a house.
No, I really
awesome.
don't.
Rocking and rolling.
Yeah, you are, huh?
Yeah.
Cool.
I really have no idea how you deal with that. I mean, all your stuff, that's it,
Yeah.
Stuff comes and stuff goes.
Yeah, surprised.
He could remake most of it,
Yeah, it was devastating, but the only things that I really miss are some of our kids, like artwork from when they were real little and things like that you can't redo.
And how old are your kids now?
We've got a new 10-year-old. He's very proud of that.
Okay.
And a 6-year-old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Fun times, man.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then they become 17.
Bart, any shout outs?
No. I mean, I'll shout out all my friends that I rode with last week for Chef Cycle. We had a very successful ride. Definitely learned that headwinds there's always a headwind.
And it's always the direction that you're going.
It's always the direction you're going. And I was trying to tell people, it just means you're riding really fast. And no one really bought it.
Oh, yeah. It was windy those few days that you guys were out there.
It was brutal. Yeah. I was saying that when we were coming back on the last day, coming in River Road from basically Monterey, and our group had gotten all stretched out, and we'd try to get together and block the wind for each other, and we'd get stretched out, and it was just terrible. But then the last 5 miles coming back in, we actually picked up a tailwind.
The last 5 miles of the 300 that you rode that week.
So where was this year's?
John, it always starts out of here in Sonoma County. We spent 2 days out on the coast. So the first day we went from Jenner to Valley Ford through Bodega Bay. Oh, cool. And then the third day we went from Valley Ford to Point Reyes Station. And so that both days just absolutely beautiful. Wind at our backs coming down the coast, spectacular. And then the middle day, we actually came through Sonoma Valley.
I saw Bart. I honked.
Yep.
I don't think you saw me.
No, but I heard a car honk, but I didn't know who it was. So that was fun to come through the valley. Although, again,
that was probably the windiest day.
That was windy, and riding, if you think we came from Santa Rosa, we went down south to Petaluma and then cut over to the south part of Sonoma Valley, Adobe Road at 7:30 in the morning.
Oh, brutal.
It's just big trucks and people trying to get off of 101 and are in a hurry. So that wasn't the most idyllic, beautiful ride as it could have been, but it is what it is. But one thing I learned when we were going on Highway 12 back into Santa Rosa is all that construction that's been going on, between here and Oakmont. That's all they're undergrounding power.
Nice.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah. So that I had heard PG&E was starting to do that, so that must be one of the first ones. Won't it look nice at some point when there's all those wires?
I won't have power pole lines in front of my Aurora Borealis photos.
But you got them.
I got them.
That's a nice thing. Yeah, and your camera sees what your eye can't.
Yeah.
So that's cool. But,
it looked cool. It was Friday night. It looked cool, but it looked way cooler on the phone.
But some of the videos from Norway and places like that.
Walla Walla.
Just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Places with big
Amazing. Sky. Very cool. Yeah. Big sky.
A little further north. Yeah.
Sam, shout-outs?
I don't know. I don't think so. We got wine in cans. We got wine in boxes. We got events coming up.
You do have now wine in cans. I got the only existing 4-pack on Saturday afternoon.
Something that somebody had brought back down from
Paul. Thank you, Paul.
It is in.
John appreciated it.
It is in the warehouse. Now. So
thank you.
Now up for sale. 2023 Primitivo Rosé.
Have you decided? Does it go into can shock?
It does not. No, it's a much gentler process. Than bottling. It's also quieter than bottling. It's really pleasant on the canning line. No can shock. The wines taste great. The Primitivo it's the best we've done so far. We did the Homage Blanc again. A little bit of Homage Blanc in cans. Ready to go. Summer's here.
Excellent.
Let's get it going. It was 90 degrees last weekend.
Next party?
We got. Is this out before? We have a dinner May 31st at La Bodega in Sebastopol. 16600 wine dinner, and then June 1st is the Moon Mountain District Reach for the Moon event. June 1st. Okay. Saturday, June 1st. Up at Monte Rosso. Grand tasting. Everybody's pouring. Master class is the 10-year retrospective of
That's going to be nice.
Of the 2013s and the 2023 barrel samples with Antonio Galoni, and then Saturday night after party at the Fairmont. We're going to bring down all our Moon Mountain wines, and Tony Saunders is playing. We're all just going to hang out afterward and then roll with it because we're gluttons for punishment. June 2nd is our first Vinyl Sunday of the year with Andy Kabik of Vetiver DJing Costa's Tacos. It's sort of our last ditch spring wine club pickup party. So if you don't have your wines yet, come get them. And we just keep rolling. Summer's here.
Party on, Garth.
Party on, Wayne.
All right.
Alex, any shout outs for anybody who might be listening to you? You got anything you want to say?
How do you get a hold? Must Fabricate on Instagram
for sure.
Right? How do you other ways of getting a hold of you? Stuff like that.
Sure. Our website, mustfabricate.com. Got our catalog on there and some helpful user guides and things for wineries. You can call us. Phone numbers on the website, 707-967-0553. Happy Mother's Day to my wife.
There you go. There's some MUST swag that comes up occasionally. They do some fun stickers and whatnot.
It is really, it's such a great name.
Yeah.
It's such a, the must pun.
Oh, we get to use
must be there.
We overuse it.
I'm sure it's beaten to death.
Yes.
Beaten to death with a
refraining
stainless steel hammer.
A custom-made stainless
Custom-made, laser engraved stainless steel.
So do you get people who want to really laser engrave with Grateful Dead emblems?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Sam, you're ahead of your time,
it's
brother.
Tempting, man.
I think you just need to have him do something, mount it in the tasting.
Just do it for display, not for actual use. That would be so on brand for me that I'm not sure I can do it. I'd be like, I spent all this money on a really nice tool that I'm never gonna use. It's just for show. I posted it on Instagram once, and then we hung it up in the tasting room.
We make a real nice barrel thief. We can machine engrave your name on it.
All right. Well,
Ooh, there you go.
Maybe some lyrics.
I think, Althea lyrics or something like
you
that.
go.
Yeah, she's got her own thief. Cool. All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. We will talk to you next week.
Wait. All you cellar guys, winemakers, contact Alex early. Place your orders early.
Now.
Now. Get over there.
Bloom is starting. It's time to buy your shit for your
Now is not early enough.
Yes.
Right,
now it's too late.
Oh, it's now too late. So in that case, just grab your shopping bags and go buy stuff.
No, I'm just kidding.
Don't steal the lights.
And don't steal the light.
Don't steal.
Yeah.
Sight glass lights.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Talk to you next week.